do hope that you're able to get some great information from today's webinar on the Trademark Clearinghouse. Our presenters today are Anna Bertrands, Account Manager at the Trademark Clearinghouse, Micah Derrida, also an Account Manager at the Trademark Clearinghouse, and Shane Lehman, Manager of Global Industry Relations here at MarkMonitor. I'm going to go ahead and pass off to Shane.
So today we're fortunate enough to have some wonderful guests from the Trademark Clearinghouse who are going to explain more about what is the Trademark Clearinghouse and why it matters, and then the services that the Trademark Clearinghouse offers. Also touching on how to register your mark with the Trademark Clearinghouse to better protect your brand online. We will discuss the signed mark data file, or SMD file, and how it works with domain blocking, and then also with regards to comprehensive brand protection. Some preparations for the next round, what you need to be aware of, and then we will end on some active Trademark Clearinghouse management and how MarkMonitor can help service those for you. And with that, off to Micah to discuss what is the Trademark Clearinghouse.
Thank you, Shane, again for the agenda. So I'll kick off the webinar once more with one of the main questions, namely, what is the Trademark Clearinghouse exactly? We can basically summarize the Trademark Clearinghouse under 3 pillars. So first of all, the Trademark Clearinghouse is a rights protection mechanism that was built into the new GTLD program by ICANN to enable trademark owners to protect their rights during the expansion of the domain name system. In the Trademark Clearinghouse, we basically verify trademark information, and then we store this data in a centralized database that is connected to all of the new GTLDs that have launched and will launch. And I will explain this in a bit more detail in a second. But then secondly, the Trademark Clearinghouse offers a set of privileged services that are only available to trademark owners who have their trademark verified in the TMCH. And these services will really allow you to better protect your brand online and to not only do this reactively, but also proactively. And then lastly, the Trademark Clearinghouse offers a comprehensive protection, since our services will help you to protect your brand within every extension of the new GTLD program. And as we will discuss later on, it also gives you access to some of the essential blocking products that are currently on the market. You can go to the next slide. Yes, thank you. So as I already mentioned, the TMCH was mandated by ICANN to act as a rights protection mechanism in the new GTLD program. For those of you who do not know, ICANN is a non-profit, multi-stakeholder organization that helps to regulate the internet. And in 2012, they launched the new GTLD program, which expanded the domain name space with over 1,000 new top-level domains. This meant that instead of having websites with .com or .org, domain names could now also be registered in new top-level domains, such as .shop, .link, .music, and many, many more. Now, to make sure that intellectual property was adequately protected in this expansion, ICANN worked with various IP experts and community stakeholders to really understand their needs. And all of these conversations eventually led to the creation of the Trademark Clearinghouse to protect trademark owners from having their trademarks infringed. Now, Anna will explain why exactly the Trademark Clearinghouse matters here and how your trademarks could be at risk in the expanded domain name system.
Thank you again, Maaike. Indeed, let's talk about why the Trademark Clearinghouse matters, or the TMCH as we call it, and also the various risks that are associated with online abuse. So protecting your brands online has become more crucial than ever given the numerous threats that exist. And as you can see on this slide, here are some of the key risks. So the first one is domain squatting. This occurs when malicious actors register domain names that are similar to your brand with the intent to profit from either reselling those domains or using them in ways that can harm your brand. The next one is phishing. I think this is the most well-known one. Phishing means that malicious actors are creating web addresses that mimic legitimate ones, and their goal is to trick users into disclosing sensitive information or downloading malware, posing a serious threat to both your brand and your customers. We also have consumer confusions. With so many similar looking websites, consumers often struggle to identify the legitimate ones. This confusion can lead to a loss of consumer trust and uncertainty about the authenticity of websites that bear your brand's name. Another important one is brand impersonation or brand dilution. So third parties might register domain names under new GTLDs for the purpose that is inconsistent with your brand's image or values. This not only misleads consumers, but can also dilute the strength of your brand. And finally, we have trademark infringement, which overall means the unauthorized use of your trademark online by third parties. This can cause significant harm because it can erode your brand's reputation, confuse your customers, and potentially lead to financial losses. The TMCH helps mitigate all of these risks by providing a centralized database of verified trademarks. This enables proactive protection and enforcement of your trademark rights. So understanding all of these risks underscores the importance of leveraging TMCH as part of your comprehensive brand protection strategy. So now let's take a closer look at a real-world example of domain squatting. So imagine a famous airline that is very well known globally, discovering that their brand name was registered as a domain under the new GTLD.xyz. The entity that has registered this domain is actually a malicious reseller who is now demanding 10,000 dollars to sell the domain back to the airline. This situation is not only frustrating, but also potentially damaging to the airline's brand image. Had this airline registered their trademark with the TMCH beforehand, then they would have had the opportunity to register the .xyz domain during the sunrise period. And this period is a special time frame during which trademark holders can secure domain names that match their trademarks before the general public has access. And actually, after this incident, the airline took the proactive step of registering their trademark with TMCH, and by doing so, they are now better equipped to stay ahead of any future infringement. Now let's turn our attention to another significant threat in the online landscape, which is phishing. So as you all know, phishing attacks are becoming increasingly sophisticated, and they often exploit new GTLDs to deceive users. So as you can see here, these three headlines of real-life articles make it clear that phishing is a persistent and evolving threat, especially with the introduction of new GTLDs. Phishing attacks not only put consumers at risk, but also jeopardize the reputation and trustworthiness of brands. So next, let's discuss the issue of consumer confusion and brand impersonation, which are significant threats to your brand's integrity and consumer trust. To illustrate this, we'll look at a recent example involving a large-scale fraud operation. So as you can see on the slide, this article highlights a sophisticated fraud operation by a group known as Feng Xiao, which has created over 42,000 fraudulent websites to impersonate legitimate brands. As you can see in the graph on the right, the most commonly exploited TLDs by this group are .top, .cn, .cu, and .xyz. Consumers visiting these websites can easily be misled into believing they are interacting with a legitimate brand, leading to a loss of trust and potential financial harm. So brand impersonation not only confuses consumers, but also dilutes the value and reputation of your brand. So let's now address the issue of trademark infringement. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. And also the tools available to combat it. So specifically, we'll compare the Uniform Domain Name Dispute Resolution Process, or easier said, the UDRP, with the Trademark Clearinghouse. UDRP is a defensive recourse for brand holders whose marks are infringed upon. It allows brand owners to file a complaint against a domain name that they believe infringes on their trademark. However, the UDRP process can be quite lengthy and costly, and additionally, the outcome of the arbitration may not always be in your favor, and this can cause a significant risk. On the other hand, TMCH acts as an offensive rights protection mechanism, and it helps prevent and mitigate infringement before it occurs by providing trademark holders with early access to domain registration periods. And TMCH also alerts about potential infringing activities. By leveraging TMCH, you can proactively protect your brand and avoid the need for a lengthy and expensive UDRP proceeding. To illustrate the growing challenge, let's look at this graph showed at the right side of the slide, which clearly shows the yearly increase in UDRP filings since 2013. So the trend is clear. As online threats and new TLDs have expanded, the number of UDRP cases has risen significantly. This increase highlights the importance of proactive brand protection measures. In conclusion, while UDRP is a necessary tool for resolving domain disputes, it is more efficient and cost-effective to prevent these issues from arising in the first place. Using TMCH and other proactive brand protection mechanisms can help you safeguard your brand and minimize the need for defensive actions like UDRP filings. So now I hand the floor back to Maaike to discuss our services. Thank you.
Thank you. So as we have just heard, the various risks that your trademark can incur in the expanded domain name system, I will now show you where the clearinghouse services can come in to protect you. So let's start by looking at the standard timeline of a new TLD launching, because our services are very much linked to these periods and they basically succeed one another. So whenever a new TLD launches, there is a mandatory sunrise period that lasts for 30 to 60 days. And after the sunrise period, the extension or TLD will open up to the general public, after which a claims period starts for 90 days. Now, during the sunrise period, if you have a verified trademark in TMCH, you will receive a sort of digital token that we call the SMD file as proof of your validation in TMCH. And with this token, you are then allowed to register your preferred domain name in the priority registration period, so the sunrise period of a new TLD. This means that you will be able to register your preferred domain before anyone else. As from the moment that the TLD then opens up to the general public, you will benefit from our claim service, which is basically a warning service that consists of two parts. So first of all, if a person or a company tries to register a domain name that contains your verified trademark, we will send them a warning message to indicate that the name that they are trying to register is in fact a verified trademark, and we will ask them whether they want to proceed with the registration or whether they want to hold off. Then secondly, in case they will proceed with the registration, we will also notify you, the trademark owner, of this action or of this event. And then with this information, you can start to evaluate if this website is indeed infringing your rights and what actions you could or should undertake to stop it. Then after the 90 days of mandatory claims period, we have extended our offering to ongoing notifications, meaning that for as long as your trademark is verified in the clearinghouse, you will receive notifications whenever any activity is noticed on a domain name that matches your verified trademark. This is again to inform you so that you can take appropriate action when needed. And we have also extended these notifications not only to all of the new GTLDs, but also the legacy TLDs such as .com, .org, and so on. And you can also receive these notifications for variations that are confusingly similar to your brand, meaning that if someone registers a domain with your trademarked or verified trademark in it, but they swap out the O for a 0 or something else of that sort, you will still receive notifications and be able to take actions on this in time. Okay, Natalie, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. Then very important. How do you submit or how do you register your mark with the Trademark Clearinghouse? There are 3 types of marks that are eligible for inclusion in the TMCH. So we accept registered trademarks, so that are basically registered at a trademark office, at least on national level. We accept marks that are protected under statute or treaty, so meaning they are protected by governmental law. And then lastly, marks of which a court has decided on its validity are also included or allowed to be included in TMCH. We accept these marks from all regions in all languages or script, and we also accept marks that consist of numbers or special characters. Now, once you have submitted your mark, according to these requirements, you or your trademark will be subject to our verification procedure, in which we will check that the information provided is accurate and complete. We do this based on the official trademark certificate as issued by the relevant trademark office. And then once we have verified everything and everything is in order, you will receive a unique authentication key, the SMD file, and from that moment on, you can start benefiting from all of our services. You can go to the next slide, please, Nelly. Thank you. So I've already mentioned the SMD file a couple of times before, so let's dive in and see what it is exactly. So the SMD file is short for the signed mark data file. It is an encrypted identification key that works very similarly to a password in the sense that it allows you to identify yourself and request specific actions that require privileges to be executed. When you're in the possession of an SMD file, you can first of all benefit from the priority registration rights during the sunrise phase of every new GTLD, but you can also use your SMD file to purchase multiple blocking products that Shane will now tell you a lot more about.
Talking about domain blocking and how the Trademark Clearinghouse works. So as previously mentioned by our wonderful guest, the SMD file is kind of the foundation for you to extend your brand protection through the domain space. And with that comes domain blocking, which is one of the best ways for brand owners to proactively protect their brand across multiple TLDs, whether that be GTLDs or CCTLDs. Domain blocking with regards to the Trademark Clearinghouse prevents third parties from registering your brand in these spaces. Next slide, please. So here we'll talk about some of the blocking services that exist right now and how they all correlate to that SMD file that we've been discussing. So the first kind of large scale blocking service, the DPML, this one only requires an SMD file to register the actual block and protect your name, right? This is across multiple top level domains, primarily GTLDs. That leads into the adult block, which is a service that protects your brand name in the adult industry. The TLDs covered are sec.sex, .porn, .xxx, and .adult. And again, SMD file requirements are there so that trademark owners are able to protect their brand. That then moves us into global block, which was the first unified domain blocking service with global coverage to secure your brand across hundreds of extensions at once, both in the GTLD space and CCTLD space, which expands your coverage as a brand owner to the next level. And then also with regards to name block, this is another service that allows you to protect your brand online by blocking identical names across one or multiple top level domains. And again, all of these are tied to that SMD file, which allows you access to domain blocking. Next slide, please. And now let's touch on some brand protection aspects of it. So when you have your mark validated through the Trademark Clearinghouse, you have access to participate in sunrise periods, which are part of the launch cycle for new GTLDs, which gives brand owners priority access to register their names. From there, it moves into that claims notification that Anna and Micah have talked about, which allows for any name that's going to be registered against a Trademark Clearinghouse filing to for the brand owner to receive that notification that warns them about what's coming. And then also the ongoing notifications after the launch cycle has kind of completed and we've moved into general availability. Again, domain blocking is that defensive protection of your intellectual property, that trademark name. Rather than registering domain names across multiple TLDs, managing a large portfolio of domain names, domain blocking gives you the ability to block these from being registered rather than having to go out and actively register multiple domain names out there. Multiple block products can be purchased using your TMCH SMD file. And then with domain management and strategy, developing a new brand strategy, domain name brand strategy, excuse me, can be a challenging endeavor. And Mark Monitor can help you establish a comprehensive domain strategy through the use of TMCH registrations and blocking services that exist that suit your trademark portfolio. Next slide, let's talk about the management from the Mark Monitor side. Oh, excuse me, sorry, jumped ahead too far. Let's talk about some next round stuff. So with regards to the next round of GTLDs, we're still waiting on some of the new GTLDs that were allocated from the first round to launch prior to the second round, right? So in 2012, when the names were allocated by ICANN, we are still waiting on some of those to launch. It's expected that they'll launch prior to 2026 to ensure that their sunrise and everything is participated in, which leads into the next point that the next round of new GTLDs is expected in 2026. And currently the prediction is over 1,000 new GTLDs are expected to be approved to expand the new GTLD front. We talk a lot about proactive versus reactive brand strategies, and utilizing the Trademark Clearinghouse gives you that early preparation for your brand protection strategy. And then utilizing Mark Monitor services as well are here to help you prepare for the next round. Next slide, please. Which brings me into the point I was trying to make earlier about the TMCH management. So through Mark Monitor and your domain portfolio advisor or account manager, you will have the ability to utilize our services that can make it so managing your Trademark Clearinghouse is pretty seamless. Sunrise follow-ups will keep track of new sunrise registration periods and guarantee timely priority registration for your brand. We will also assess notifications, whether they be claims and ongoing notifications, to help you optimize your brand protection strategy. And then we'll update trademark information too. The verification process at the Trademark Clearinghouse requires updated information being sent, whether that be changing of trademark names or the owner of the trademark name and other things there. And we can manage that service for you. And then we also handle trademark renewal through the Trademark Clearinghouse. And I wanted to see if Anna or Micah wanted to jump in there at all and add anything to that.
Yes, I think you covered most of it, but indeed from our experience, the easiest and most efficient way is to register your trademarks through an agent like Mark Monitor. They can monitor and manage everything for you, like, for example, what the best strategy for you is when you receive notifications from us. So we definitely recommend it.
Into questions, we've had a handful in the questions tab. If you have questions, please feel free to write them in there. We will do our best to answer them as best we can. We do still have some time before the hour, so we'll kick off. Anna, Micah, I don't know who wants to take this, but I'll just read it off. If I've registered a trademark with the USPTMO, does this mean I've registered with the TMCH? If not, is there any coordination between them?
No. So I guess you meant to say USPTO, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what that is.
Yeah, indeed. So the USPTO is a trademark office from the US. So if you have a trademark registered in USPTO, you can use that registration to register in our database. So you need to submit all the information that is on your USPTO certificates to register in our database, but it's totally separate. So the services we provide, you're currently not benefiting from it, from merely your registration into USPTO. So I don't know if that is enough of an explanation.
No, I think that's great. I think that could be a lead into this next question. So I'll skip a couple, but we'll definitely come back to them. So the next question that I think ties into this is, where does the trademark need to be registered for the TMCH to recognize it?
Yeah, so it needs to be registered at an official trademark office. So it can be anywhere in the world. So it can be as small as I could say, as a local trademark office, but it can also be registered in WIPO or OIPO. So it doesn't matter, as long as there is an official trademark certificate linked to it.
Just one addition from my side, it has to be at least at national level. So that is the minimal requirement.
Great, and just to tie into the other question, the USPTO would qualify, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you all. Okay, I will jump back to the other question we received, which I think I could be able to answer, and then Anna, Micah, I'll have you guys jump in as well. So how do the Global Block and Global Block Plus services from MarkMonitor interact with the TMCH? Global Block and Global Block Plus require SMD files, not the only requirement, but they do require SMD files to validate and register your mark. So when MarkMonitor is managing your trademark clearinghouse entry, we will take the SMD file as long as it's accurate and has not been revoked. We will submit that on your behalf to then register the Global Block or Global Block Plus service at the Brand Safety Alliance. Anna, Mike, I don't know if you have anything else to add. I think that touched on it.
Well, I think that pretty much covers it. If you already have the SMD file, or if you're planning to register in TMCH and then you receive the SMD file, it's just an easy access way to purchase a blocking product with the help of MarkMonitor.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think also to add to that, it's very easy to register with an SMD file, as opposed to submitting a trademark application or a physical copy from the USPTO, for example. There's other validations that have to go in place on the Brand Safety Alliance side, who runs Global Block, versus registering with an SMD file, and it's an instant validation on their end to make sure that the SMD file has been revoked or there's anything wrong there. We have a flood of questions coming in, so let's get to the next one. These services / protections only apply to GTLDs, correct?
Well, yes, part of the services do. So our Sunrise service, of course, only applies to new GTLDs. Then the claim service as well, but our ongoing notifications also extend to legacy TLDs like .com and .org.
Great.
I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that's great. So the next question, can I register a figurative trademark in the Trademark Clearinghouse, or is it only for word marks?
It's limited to word marks.
Yeah, only word marks.
Yeah. So the trademark certificate can include a logo or something, but it should be a word mark, because
Awesome.
it's indeed linked to the domain names.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, and we wouldn't be able to register an image as a domain name, I guess. Next question, how can we see the language in the claim / warning letter? And then there's another part to this. Are the potential consequences of violating another party's IP rights made clear?
I'm not really sure what you mean by seeing the language.
I think maybe
claims?
that's touching on just what the claims notice says, like the verbiage that's used in the notice.
There are examples of claims notifications on our website. By default, they are in English. So I don't know if that responds to the question.
Yeah, so I think for whomever has asked that, question maybe to go to the Trademark Clearinghouse website to see some examples of the verbiage that's used in the claims or in the notification. And then to the second point, are the potential consequences of violating another party's IP rights made clear? I'd imagine in the examples that are shown on the Trademark Clearinghouse site, it does speak to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
so the claims notice, it essentially warns the potential registrant that they're trying to register a domain name that's already a verified trademark with TMCH. So to warn them, like if they were to proceed, they might expect retaliation from that.
Yeah, and those notifications, the claims notifications, they have to be acknowledged by the registrant. Through MarkMonitor, we have a tool called the claims tool that allows for us to acknowledge the claim via EPP. Generally, the registrations we will be processing are on behalf of the trademark owner. So the claims notice is just acknowledging, yeah, we know it's our client's mark that we're registering in, but they do have to be acknowledged. So the potential registrant of the name does know that they're registering a name that's validated, a trademark that's validated. All right, next up. Does registration of a mark on does a registration of a mark in the TMCH help to make a UDRP action more successful?
Well, this is not something that we really have experience with ourselves. We just provide the notifications, and then of course it's up to you and your agent or your law firm to decide what to do with it. We have heard feedback that it does indeed help because it can really show your history with the mark, and it can show your trademark rights more clearly. But like the true extent of the difference, we really don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's really good insight. I wonder if there could be a case study done on if that does bear any weight to the UDRP action. Moving on, any thoughts on whether global blocking service will ever expand beyond blocking brand.tld or minor variations into brand plus insert generic name here .tld? And I'll take that one. That's kind of a tough question. For the unified blocking services such as Global Block, brand exact match blocking is a lot easier for other registries, the registry operators for top level domains to buy into versus a long string of numbers. MarkMonitor is great whatever being added in there, that then becomes like a larger blocking product versus just the exact match blocking. One thing that blocking products do have is the homoglyph variations or the homoglyph misspellings that exist out there. However, at this time, I don't think there will be much with regards to kind of a wildcard type block where anything before or after the brand name ends up being a blocked term. Next question, you mentioned domain registration priorities given to the company, but what would happen if we don't want to buy or can't in Australia, for example? Would we still have the domain name protection, and for how long? I think Anna, Micah, I think for this question, it's maybe speaking more towards the sunrise phase, which I don't want to speak out of turn here. So if you have anything, please jump in.
Yeah, indeed. So of course, if you decide to not buy a new GTLD in the sunrise period, we still offer our, on one hand, our claim service, which is the first 90 days of general availability. And in these 90 days, on one hand, the potential registrant is warned, like we said, that they are warned that there's a verified trademark in the TMCH. So if they proceed with the registration, they might be infringing a verified trademark. And if they then do proceed with the registration, then we notify MarkMonitor or the trademark holder that this registration has occurred, and action can be taken in response to that. And after the first 90 days of general availability, we have our ongoing notifications service, which goes on indefinitely. So for the time frame that you are registered and verified within TMCH, you will be protected in the sense that in this period, whenever someone registers a domain name matching your verified trademark in any new GTLDs, or like Mike said, the legacy TLDs like .com or .org, we will notify you as well, and you can take appropriate action based on that.
Great, thank you. And then just to add to that, is there any data about how useful those notices are? I'm not sure if you have any insight into that, but you know, if you don't, just say, you know, we don't have insight into that. But basically, just is there, you know, do you see less registrations of brand names when those notices are sent out?
Yeah, that's the tricky part, because since these claims notices are sent out by the registries, we don't have any insights on that.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I figured. For whomever has asked the question about the examples of the claims notices, we will send out a link to the examples in the webinar follow-up email that has the recording to this webinar that'll be sent out. So we'll make sure we include a link there so that you're able to easily find it. A couple more questions as we're coming up against the hour mark. If I provide a certificate of registration of a trademark plus a logo, is the trademark suitable for registering at the Trademark Clearinghouse? And then there's a second part to the question. We'll go, Mike, I'll let you answer that, and then we'll go to the second part.
Okay. I was just gonna say, as long as there is a word mark, then of course. But if it's only a logo, so only a figurative mark, then no.
Great. And then the second part is, I recall that the TMCH was available only for identical domain names, and that if the trademark also contained a logo or other figurative element, it was considered unsuitable for the TMCH. Is this correct?
Wait, I'm not sure I understand the question fully. Could you maybe repeat it?
You bet. So the second part is, I recall that the Trademark Clearinghouse was available only for identical domain names, and that if the trademark also contained a logo or other figurative element, it was considered unsuitable for the Trademark Clearinghouse. Is this correct?
No, this is not correct. So we do allow trademark certificates that include a logo. So it has then a word mark, but also a logo to the side of it or something. And yeah, we do accept it, because then the word mark can be used to register as a domain name in the new GTLDs. I don't know if this is what is meant by this question.
Yeah, I think, I mean, my understanding of the question, I believe that answers it. So the last few questions we'll get to is, what are the consequences if they, being the registrant of the domain name, don't acknowledge they're registering a domain name of a registered trademark after the claims notification? Or if they continue with registration regardless. Thank you. For the first part, the registration, first part of that question, for the registration, if they do not acknowledge the claims notification, they cannot register the domain name in those 90 days. So if they ignore the claim notification or do not acknowledge it in the registration flow, then the registration will not proceed at the registry level. And then consequences if they do proceed with registration, I think we've touched on already. I mean, the notification goes out, and then the trademark owner will see the notification and then can take any form of, you know, UDRP or what they would like to after that. It's also worth noting that during the ongoing notification period, you can add variations to your mark for coverage, but you know, that is where we're at. So we're just about at time. I think we've touched on every question that has been answered. So again, I would just like to thank Anna and Micah for being here and shedding some excellent insight into the Trademark Clearinghouse and how important it is for brand owners and why it matters. I don't know if you two have any other closing remarks? Otherwise, I will turn it back over to Natalie.
No, just a thank you from our side as well to have us and to host this wonderful webinar with us. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Shane and Natalie.
And also to all of the
Wonderful.
attendees, of course.
Yeah, can't forget them. Thank you to all the attendees.